today my special guest is Michael Kerr from Kerr Capital, and the discussion that we're going to have is opportunities for rural towns and businesses. Now, why have I asked you to speak, Michael? I know you do have a bit of a rural background, but tell us a bit about what you do and where you've come from.
Thanks, Kerry. Nice to be talking to you again. I started, born in Traralgon, and a long time ago moved to Melbourne to go to university. Spent 25 years in Melbourne and have recently exited Melbourne to move and live down on the Bellarine Peninsula, so outside of.
Nice. Yes.
So I'm back to. I did the sea change with the family. From a business perspective, my business is unchanged. I help buyers and sellers of businesses to do a better job. So for those owners that are looking to get out of their business, I help them prepare and ultimately take it to market. And for increasingly for others who are looking to buy a business, I coach, guide, mentor them through the process of finding and working out if it's a good fit. So that, a core business is dealing with buyers and sellers of small businesses, and I do it day to day.
And that's exactly why we're chatting today, because talk about a hot topic at the moment. It's been bubbling along as we're starting to emerge from COVID-19, and you will have heard it. I've certainly been talking about it myself, about the fact that rural and regional communities need to prepare themselves. There's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of regional migration. There's going to be a wave of domestic tourism because we can't hop on a ship or a plane anymore. So people will be coming out, and I'm saying to rural towns, roll out that red carpet, because they are prospective new residents. But what are they going to do when they get to those towns? And business, small business particularly, will be a great inroad. On the other side of the equation, there will be many people, I think, whether it's COVID-19 related or not, thinking we've had a good run for whatever reason, whether it's health or retirement age or just had enough, will be looking to exit businesses. Are you getting a sense of this too in your conversations?
Look, on the latter point about owners, getting to that time where they want to, move on from the business. I've been working with regional businesses for pretty much since I started the business 18 years ago. So I've had in every year I've done, out of every 100 clients, probably 30 or 40 have been regional clients over the years. So, that's a natural cycle that has been going on for quite some time. I think it is, accelerating because, typically small businesses are owned by, boomers and older, and, there's more of them coming, more of the natural buyers perhaps of those businesses have left to go to the cities to find work or, to get a job. There's a lot of owners that are, continue to wonder about how they get out. The uptick, and it's really quite exciting, is what's been brought on by COVID, and that is, have I finally had enough of living in the city? And if you throw in expensive housing, employment uncertainty, a lot of, a fair proportion of those people living there, have an affiliation. Perhaps they grew up in a regional centre or have family there. So I think more and more people are asking the question about whether it's time to make that change. So, I think it's a really positive thing, and somewhere in the middle there might be the opportunity to see more of those boomers and older owners wanting to get out and being matched with with somebody coming into town who brings a family and some expertise and IP and some energy. So
absolutely. To a rural town in particular, every one person that makes a move brings so much with them. And as you say, it can be a partner, it can be children attending the school. Numbers are really important, and just one person makes a huge difference. We see that all the time. So I've been thinking about those people that are perhaps ready to exit their businesses. And to me, that's a really good business decision to make. Certainly it's not about failure. It's about knowing when is the right time to move. And in actual fact, when should you start planning to exit your business?
Look, a couple of things on that. If you wanted to take the sort of popular view of exit planning, it should be a 3 to 5 year process from the very beginning. When you have that first thought, I think I've been in this a long time. I'm starting to think more about things outside of business, retirement or holidays or whatever it might be. But look, if in the case of regional businesses, I think 3 to 5 years is probably not long enough to be. It just takes that much longer to find a buyer and sell a regional business, and this is based on a lot of experience. So, probably more of a guideline would be to be, once you reach a certain point, and it's not necessarily age related, but you reach a point where you start to think about doing something else, and then it's time to start exit planning. Now that might be 10 years out, and 10 years can sound like an awful long time, but I have worked with business owners, and from that first thought about selling to eventually getting out, it can be 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and that doesn't mean you're selling the business the whole time, but it means that you start to think about it, you start to get your business in shape, you take it to market, do however you're going to do that, and you have these lulls where you get you might not get any interest for 12 months, 18 months, and you start to question, but it can take that long, 7, 8 years. So that's if you're exit planning with intent to get out. It's very hard to control the end date, so the earlier you start, the better. The general guideline I mentioned is always being ready, and I think that's particularly apt at the moment when I do see that that trend you're seeing, and it's a really positive one. People wanting to escape, move away from bigger cities to for their own reasons to regional, rural areas, and I think the likelihood that the owner of a business in a regional location or rural location might get a tap on the shoulder or a phone call out of the blue. So that happens quite a lot. It can be from somebody who's looking to buy a business that you've never met before. It can be your staff members who are already living in town and see the owners perhaps starting to lose a bit of interest. So that's where being always ready is a really good thing, because you just never know when somebody is going to knock on the door, and it may not be the ideal time, but they might be one of the very few genuine buyers that come along. So you need to consider it seriously.
I've heard a few good stories. As you know, I interview lots of rural businesses everywhere, and over the years I've heard a couple of good stories, and two that come to mind. One was in the buying situation, a couple who ran a store of this type happened to be travelling through another rural town and stopped at a similar business. And the wife that went in to do the purchase observed the non-customer service skills of the owner, and went back out to the car and said to her husband, "I think they're ready to sell." So they made an offer and bought. So you're right, these whims do occur. They made a move to another town and built that business up because they recognised that owner was ready to move on. Another story I've heard about being prepared, as you say, is having your books up to date and making sure they're really on the spot. A lot of small business owners seem to think that it's okay to do a little bit without recording it, but it doesn't reflect your true trading figures, and so it can come back to bite you when you go to put your business up for sale.
Look, there's That's very true. I think exit planning the thought of it can overwhelm people, and it seems like this massive project. If you wanted to bring it down to really basic levels, and you can do this, it's really thinking about two things. One is, what are you as the owner, what are you going to do after pretending you could sell your business tomorrow? Or next year? What are you going to do? So you've got to get emotionally and psychologically and personally ready. That's a part of exit planning that doesn't get a lot of attention. And the other part, obviously, is how will the business go without you? And so the more you can think about those things. So yes, you've got to get your financials in order, but you've got to think about things like the lease, about employees, about anything that's, if you, depending on the kind of business it is, do you have particular customers that, you don't want to, they're important to the business. So you want to, invest in those customer relationships. You don't want to deliver bad service, just because you're getting a bit tired. It can, it can really make the business go in the wrong direction. So I think the idea of exit planning is, have your books in order, but also things, just being ready to contemplate what you're going to do after the business and what a new owner would do, and anything you can do to make it easier for a new owner without you there. Call that exit planning. It's really, they're the sort of things that you need to focus on to make it just that much easier for a buyer to say, I will buy this business. There's risks in everything you do, including buying a business, but the more you can make a potential buyer just think, this is a good opportunity. I can't reduce every risk to zero, but it looks like they've maintained customers, and there's a lease, and there's the equipment's in good order, and the staff are happy. They're the sort of things where people go, I'm good. I'll do this. I'll buy it.
Mm. And it doesn't have to be that sudden exit also. I know there's negotiations where previous owners stay on in a mentoring or a part-time employment role. And I know when we purchased a retail business, we very much appreciated that from the previous owners, that for the month going on, that's all we needed. It wasn't that complicated.
Yeah.
But I know there's longer arrangements in place and those phased out type, which makes it financially easier for people to buy into. So there can be a bit of flexibility with sales of businesses as well. Have you come across those?
Yeah, look, a couple of things are, again, depending on the type of business, sometimes a month is all you need. In other kinds of businesses, that there's more time needed, and so if you're the outgoing owner and you're going to stay in that location and you're not selling to move, why wouldn't you consider mentoring, helping the new owner through that sort of initial phase. Increasingly, that can extend to, because financing a business is so challenging, some buyers are wanting to make a move and buy a business and finding it really difficult to get the finance. So therefore, outgoing owners are sometimes being asked to step up in partly financing the new owner into the business through vendor loans or through earnouts. Now that takes that relationship to a whole new level. But it is increasingly, it's still not, but it can be the difference in selling or not selling in some cases. But that really requires a lot of trust and understanding on both sides, as well as all the legal agreements that go with that. But it's it's going to become more and more of an issue, more and more of an option for owners to get out, is to help the new owner come in.
I think it just makes perfect sense, certainly in a rural town where you have that vested interest in your future, because we want all businesses to be healthy. I guess we have to be prepared that some businesses have had their use by date I know when a business does close its doors and people look at that space, I see all new sorts of opportunities to go into those spaces. It doesn't necessarily have to be what was there before. So it's definitely an interesting time with this improved connectivity and new ways of doing things. We all have to keep an open mind, don't we?
Yeah, well, whether they're metro or regional businesses, there are some that are being disintermediated or overrun by technology or new ways, new processes. So that's a reality across the board. One of the interesting things, we do spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time travelling through regional Victoria for work, but also just because we like getting out. And we saw a business last weekend about an hour away from here, which was an old milk bar with the residents. And there's no place for that milk bar in that town anymore for various reasons, but it's still a place where a business can be created. You combine a residence and a shop / office / consulting room, whatever. I mean, as you say, with technology, this is where, if not the goodwill of that old business, at least the goodwill of the site, the physical layout would suit other businesses, and somebody can come in and combine a house, a business premises in a much cheaper location, and increase the chances of business viability, because the cost of ownership of both the premises and the house are so much lower.
That is a very desirable aspect for people in cities. One, realising that they won't have the long commutes to work, cheaper accommodation for their personal families, but also commercial real estate is so much cheaper, and lots more space too, I might add. So lots of bonuses.
I mean, in some of the the really prime, certainly in Victoria, I've been involved in trying to sell some businesses, very attractive businesses, and in the end, the blockage, or the reason the business didn't sell, is because these were pretty coastal locations in popular spots. The real estate there was near enough to Melbourne prices, so there was no change if you got out of Melbourne, or if you didn't own and you were trying to buy in that town and a business at the same time. And we had a particularly good business that was really attractive to. It had a long life ahead of it. Would have been perfect for early 30s, 40s, maybe 50s. But the price of also buying a house there for a family was just exorbitant. So that stopped. But that's not. There's a lot of other locations where real estate isn't like that.
Well, I have to say, tree change instead of sea change. That's
true.
The moral of that story.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
So it is really interesting times. I guess there's no size fits one. Where are people looking to buy, in terms of how do they do their research to find out what businesses are available, which on the flip side is, how should we be advertising our businesses for sale?
Look, there's part of that question was about what kind of businesses people are looking at as well, and the online space is just going off, as they say. So people are looking for these, almost diverting away from real estate investment and into buying online businesses. It really is quite frenetic. I monitor a lot of different spaces or industry segments, and that's one that's really just highly sought after at the moment. It's almost a bit like that, earning money while you sleep, which troubles me a little, but there certainly seem to be some good opportunities.
And we need a bit of everything. The beauty with online is you can pick it up and take it with you wherever you live. And I think a lot of our business sector is hidden to public view now. They're operating out of private homes or spaces that aren't necessarily in a street frontage. So you're right, there's all sorts of businesses. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no. So in terms of where to find businesses, there's a few things. Look, there's some major business for sale portals like Seek and Eden Exchange, and they're dominated by food and beverage and retail businesses. Probably 2/3 of Seek. I did some analysis the other day. I think their listings have dropped off quite significantly, relatively speaking, in the last couple of months, because they had about 15 or 16,000 businesses. 2/3 of them are cafes and food and retail and franchises. So it kind of makes sense. So if you're after a business like that, those listing sites are okay. But there's so many more businesses that you might be able to acquire that just it's people don't get to exit planning, therefore they don't advertise their business, but they would be interested in selling if you knocked on their door. So if you're a business buyer and you go to look at Seek for one example, you're going to find 2/3 of them are cafes, and you might, if that's what you're after, great. If you're after something else, you're probably not going to find anything. If it's half decent, it'll be everyone will be crawling all over it. The real gold is in figuring out what sort of business in what location you want, and making a few calls to businesses that, like the example you use of that couple. That I've done a lot of work with buyers, and for every one business listed for sale, I think there are probably 6 or 7 that might be for sale because but they haven't got around to doing anything. That's how, so Seek's...
They're too busy working in the business to work on selling it, yes.
Yeah, and, there's a whole lot of reasons that go behind, but, they're Seek, which is supposedly the biggest exchange or listing site in the country, has got 15,000 listings, and we've got, even if you take out of 2.2 million small businesses, you take out those that are no employees, you're still left with 800,000 or 900,000 employing businesses. So, and the majority of them are owned by 50 years and older. So if you do the maths, and I have done, there's a lot of other businesses that you can buy, but you're not going to find them on an exchange or a listing site. So that's just the real, and it's hard work, but that's if you're committed to buying a business, or you're in a particular industry or segment, and it might be in professional services, and then generally there's a transition of those businesses when somebody off market says to the retiring owner, what are you going to do with your fees, or what are you going to do with your legal practice, or and they either die or somebody takes them over, and it's not generally an advertised business for sale process. It's just a handover between people in the industry.
And that's a good tip for people that have never considered or have never been in business before and are considering. So I think we can establish online research is a big component, but also considering where they want to live and where there's connections. There could be family, friends. There could be elements of a community that appeals to them in their interests and hobbies. And I would strongly suggest a lot of people do that drive through. Let's go for a drive to the country and just check it out and see what the feel is, which is why I'm talking so strongly about roll the red carpets out. Every person in that town needs to be an ambassador. This is a friendly town to live in. Oh, what opportunities are around here? So
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, we've had the experience in the last couple of weeks of driving. We went to a place called Biak, which is maybe an hour and a bit from where we are, sort of below Ballarat, part of the lakes, Corangamite Lakes. Charming town, beautiful old buildings. They've got it's part on the arts trail. The great lolly shop and, beautiful old buildings. It was just, and the first few people we ran into we're locals and very open and warm and friendly. And it made an awful lot of difference to, our perception of the town, because there were people out, young kids out. Yeah, really, that rolling out they weren't even rolling out the red carpet, but they were just being...
But they were subconsciously, they were rolling out that red carpet, and it doesn't need to be a visible red carpet. It's just people realising that they're showcasing their town. They might be tourists for the day, but they could also be prospective residents. And this is what I'm really excited about. I've always said it, but I think that city people are really in that mindset at this point in time. There are cycles where they have children or about to have children and thinking, oh, I want to get out of the city, have that nice, clean, green lifestyle for the family. And I think COVID and the fact that we've got more flexible working arrangements too. And some people sadly are losing their jobs or have lost their jobs. And as we know, adversity is a great breeding ground for entrepreneurs. So they think, well, I've often thought about this and now I'm going to do it. So I don't know, I'm feeling excited about the future, Michael, and maybe people like yourself will be quite busy assisting a whole range of business owners to transition one way or the other. Yeah. Yeah,
look, there's, still a very big believer in small business as a way to, you don't have to be Bill Gates. One of the things that's really important is to have, your own set of expectations. The business has to be viable, and some people have, greater financial needs, so that some businesses won't be viable for them, but they might be for others who are in a different, stage of life or, different family structure or whatever. So the reality is most small businesses, you boil it all down, a lot of small businesses are still dependent on the current owner, and the profits over and above a core wage for the owners is modest. Some of them are, are really high performers, but many are just in that sort of range of they're providing a good living, a wage for the owner, and yes, the business is dependent on them, but they've figured out, luckily that it works for them. And I think that's, one of the secrets for small business is not, kind of always looking over your shoulder, wondering, how to make it bigger or different. If it works for you there and then, I think that's a pretty good benchmark for what for success.
And we won't shy away from the fact that business can be it is tough, hard work, because it starts and finishes with the business owner. But on the other hand, there's so many, I guess, bonuses in that you don't have to, as you say, look over your shoulder. You are your own boss. There's certain flexibilities associated with many businesses. The fact that you can contribute to your community as well as your own income. Anyone that's in business loves those aspects, but we won't try and sugarcoat it. It is hard work. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Yeah. And certainly that would have to be part of the research, I think, with anyone looking to buy a business. And anyone wanting to sell a business, we shouldn't be hiding those facts. You don't want a new business owner to fall over at the first hurdle.
No, look, there's a lot of, I've worked with a lot of owners, and this is probably more attributable to businesses in regional areas. They really, not in all cases, but in many, care about who comes and buys the business. They're going to stay there. They don't want to sell a lemon. They also, genuinely want to see somebody else have an opportunity to do something. So, it's really, it's a case of there are good owners, and there are those that just want to see success because the town needs it or the region needs it, and they look beyond their own hip pocket just a little bit just at some points.
A lot of community investment in
Yeah.
small business, that's for sure. So I guess the takeaway from just today's little chat is all businesses need to be prepared and be thinking about exiting at some point. Doesn't have to be now, but they need to be planning ahead and have those trigger points. They need to be prepared that the fact someone could knock on their door and say, "Are you prepared to sell?"
Yeah.
From a buyer perspective, I think we all need to be advocates for the rural and regional areas as a great place to do business and live. And I think that message will be very well received. So lots of things to think about. Any parting words of wisdom that you haven't shared and would like to? Hot tip, perhaps?
Look, my when I talk about getting, I'd encourage more people to get into small business for the right reasons. And now is a great case in point. People are facing insecurity in their jobs. What had been up until recently, an out of control property market. So, and you throw in some of these, COVID and other things, and people are questioning what do I want to do? Where do I want to live? How do I want to live? And so I still, I champion the idea that small business, there's hard work and there's disappointment, but you get a lot of that in a big job as well. And it's a question of, I guess your own personal choices and values about how you want to live your life. But, if you're going to want to get out of the cities, those jobs probably, you're not going to get the same kind of job as you have in the city, clearly. Some of them might telecommute or have a mix and match, a couple of days from home, a couple of days in the city. But, finding yourself, as more people move to the regions, which I think is going to happen, those same businesses are going to be more viable. And if you have a reasonable, if you're not unrealistic about what's involved, you can buy yourself a business that sustains you and your family, and you have all those other benefits. You got, as you said, you got to work hard, and nothing's easy about it, but there's an opportunity to change things up, and I think people are more aware of that now than I can remember. So
absolutely. And another key message that we really must emphasise is, I know there's a big appetite for startups and new businesses, but nothing is more simpler than taking on an existing business. You have an existing customer base, you've got processes and procedures in place, you've got a reputation in place. It doesn't mean you can't tweak it and build on it, turn it in slightly different directions, but what a great base to start with, an existing business. And I get excited about the startups as well, and there's plenty of empty spaces or cyber spaces to be filled by those. But I think often people think, we've got to start something new. You don't. There's lots of existing businesses that they should consider.
Absolutely. Look, I've worked in a couple of startups, from 0 employees through, and incredibly exciting, and but I think they're not either or. I think there's combining an existing business with a startup attitude, or bringing some new energy. There's a middle ground there, because there's certainly technologies and processes and global markets and all sorts of stuff that you can bring to an existing business, but you get through that initial stage. If you have some customers, you get some, there might be a brand, presence, some processes and some staff. The idea of taking one of those and innovating it and starting up from within, I think has got a lot of merit. And and what the issue with startups, there's a lot of exciting things happening. That's where medical frontier work is done, and so and we need that in science and medical and everything else. But with just normal everyday businesses, there's enormous opportunity to bring some of that to an existing business, but you don't have to get your first customer. You've got some customers, and you can you kind of got, you pay a little bit, but you're up and running on Monday morning when you buy the business. You don't have to.
It's a great starting base.
Yeah.
And from that base, you can take it. Innovation should be everyday part of all businesses.
Yeah.
So, Michael, you've got a website if people want to explore a bit more. Tell us what your website is.
It's kerrcapital.com.au, KERRCAPITAL.
Yeah.
And I'm on LinkedIn is probably another channel for people if they wanted to reach out.
Yeah, and we're connected there too. But
Yeah.
I think it's lovely to know that you've got this interest in the regional areas and the fact that there is expertise to help people. Some people need a bit more hand-holding than others, or they might just want some professional advice to get them started. But thank you for chatting today. It's been great.
Thank you, Kerry, and keep up the great work you do.
Okay, thank you.